I'm Lisa, and you're with Velo Dulce, the show where we talk women, cycling, and life. Velo Dulce is from the Italian phrase La vita dolce, which means the good life. These are stories from women around the world on finding the good life through life on a bicycle. So, my first guest, I am super excited to say on Velo Dulce, is professional mountain bike racer for Live Factory Racing. She is also completing her master's in psych and is a level 1 skill certified mountain bike coach. My fellow countrywoman, Sarah Hill. Sarah,
Hi.
thank you for joining me. Hi.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
Thanks. So, before we chatted, you said I could jump right in. So I'm going to do that.
Okay.
I know you started riding when you were 17. You've been riding for, if I'm not mistaken, 10 years now. You've represented South Africa. You are going to World Marathon Champs soon in
Yeah.
Italy. But actually, what caught my attention is that you and I are on the same WhatsApp group. And way back in July, I saw the video that you posted titled You Are Not Alone. And I have to say, it blew me away completely. I felt like you were speaking to me. And for those listeners who don't know, Sarah shared a story, and it was publicized on Live Racing's website. Sarah, for those who don't know, maybe you can start by giving a summary of the video and kind of the events that led to that.
Sure. So in the beginning of the year, the team was still getting to know each other, and they sent out an email and they said, we want to know from everybody on the team, how was your lockdown experience? Because being on a global team, right, everyone has a very different experience being in a different country. Some countries have harder lockdowns, some were in winter, some were in summer. So it was very different for everybody. And I answered this email. I actually remember sitting there in front of the laptop going, do I tell them the truth? Or do I make up some story about how I'm fine, things were so great? And I decided for the first time in a really long time that I was going to be transparent and absolutely honest. And I shared my true story of lockdown. And like many others, my experience was not so great. It had a much different meaning to what it feels like to go up and down. And
Right.
I really hit probably my lowest space in my whole life. And
Wow.
through telling the story, the team picked up this whole experience, and they decided that they wanted to actually make a documentary on it. And unfortunately, they couldn't quite get the acceptance to make a five-piece documentary on exactly everything that happened. So you can understand the magnitude of the story. But what came from it was a very incredible short video that was published on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all the global pages, so that most people, not just athletes, but people watching this video can truly understand that, you know, we all go through very much the same things in life, and you really are not alone, even if you think you are. And so the blog post attached to that video goes a lot more in depth than the video itself. But it was an incredible experience also actually shooting it, because I felt very raw and opened up, very exposed. And yeah, I mean, they really did a great job.
Right.
Yeah.
I think what I got from that video is, first of all, I felt like you were speaking to me, but secondly, I thought geez, how courageous, how raw, how brave, how open, and how freaking vulnerable can you be? Because I think that video was prior to Simone Biles'
Yeah, it
story in
was.
the Olympics. It was. And so there's kind of been over the years now and then athletes sharing, I'm having a tough day, or, this happened. What struck me about your story is it's real, and this is where I'm really struggling in my life. This is not a bad day. This is stuff I'm struggling with. Talk to
Right.
me about, so first of all, thank you for sharing, because I
Mhm.
really feel like the conversation needs to be had. And it's why I reached out to you as the first person I wanted to host, is because I didn't want to host another podcast about, women performing in sport. That I wanted to hear the stories, because I think often when, and I myself am guilty, when we view professional athletes, it's kind of a them and us. These people don't suffer from what I have to go through, and that's why they get to be a professional athlete. And what struck me in your video was like, wow, I relate to this. Tell
Yeah.
me about the challenges that you are having, or are having and have been going through.
So I think probably the biggest thing, which is a lifetime challenge, is the acceptance that major depressive disorder is very much a part of who I am. And so during this time, I was diagnosed, and I feel like being diagnosed made it worse
Right,
because I felt like now, here I am. I'm like the depressed athlete, right? One of
right,
many who now I'm going to go down, go off the rails, and this is it. Like I thought it was the end of not only my career, but in terms of my happiness. I thought that was it. This is who I am now. And it took me a long time to realize that MDD is something that I kind of have had probably since my teens, due to being raised by an alcoholic mother, very very disjointed family, like a lot of people have. But in my response to that, I dove straight into my sport, and so I only found cycling later, but there was very little self-awareness or understanding of why I felt the way I did. Why was I carrying so much anger? Why was my moods going up and down? And why was I sad for so long at a time?
right,
And people would say things like, why do you take things so personally? Or why have you been so grumpy for, it's been like a month now. Can you just get over it? And, you feel like something is truly wrong with you.
mm,
And so during my lockdown phase, it got so bad and got to such a low point that I was admitted into a mental health facility. And even around that term, like the stigma around it, I kind of went to the loony bin, right?
oh,
And that's how I felt. I felt like I had totally lost it. And I was being put into this place because I couldn't even deal with myself. And the diagnosis was really like the cherry on top of who even am I anymore? That was the biggest thing. And if you
right.
do watch the video, you'll see it's a very prominent moment. If I'm not a professional athlete, then who even am I?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm. And I think, you know, for me, for me personally, I've experienced a lot of shame around my struggles. And I think the fact that you're talking about this is, I don't think you're probably yet even aware of the people you have helped up until now or are helping. And
Mm.
just us connecting now, I feel like just talking about it often brings some kind of liberation, or or freedom from the shame. Has that been the case?
Yeah, there's, someone told me this once and it stuck with me forever, but there is strength in vulnerability. And it's definitely something to always acknowledge, that even when you are being transparent and being honest and accepting the fact that you might not be at your best performing self, the fact that you are able to just sit there and acknowledge that things are not okay right now, there is a lot of strength in that. And what I found is that the community and the network of people who are willing to step in to help you and to allow you to lean on them or to chat to them or even just to be there. I mean, I've had some incredible people around that have they just didn't leave. And I found one of the biggest things, probably one of the most traumatic things when I went through this whole phase of being diagnosed, going into the mental health facility, trying to commit suicide, being left or dumped by my boyfriend, and then coming to the end of a very terrifying contract ending and not knowing if I was going to get a new contract with anyone. That phase, gosh, it's overwhelming just to even say the list of everything that I just went
that was happening. I mean,
yeah, but the traumatic thing was that a lot of my friends turned and walked away from me. And it was a big thing, like, during a time where everyone was holding close to each other because we couldn't see each other. We were all isolating. We were all locked in our own homes. I had people leaving me and disappearing. And so there was a transition phase of truly feeling like I was alone. And now I can admit that is probably my biggest fear, is that I am truly alone in this world. And it took a while for me to realize that despite it being a time where people left, it was an opportunity for new people to walk in.
Right.
And that was special. Now, looking in hindsight, going, okay, like I made it through. There are now people in my corner that actually won't leave because they know the true Sarah. They know that I go through ups and downs, but the downs are not, it's not as stereotypically written out as what you think. And I also really love how you mentioned shame, and it always brings up Brene Brown when you mention shame. But what else that comes up is also courage. Absolutely. And so I think it's the other side of the card when we talk about, we feel shame because we feel like failures, or we feel not good enough, or we feel tormented by our own fears. But there is courage in accepting and becoming aware and choosing to step into a new space.
Right.
Yeah. And if there's one thing people can take away from a chat like this, is that choice is not easy. And despite it being an instant thing where you do make the decision, stepping into that choice and that space, that's where the work comes in.
Right.
And it takes a while for it to actually click. So, yeah.
So, there is like
there's a lot in there.
There's a lot. I wanna ask 100 questions, but I will start.
Sure.
I will start just with a comment. Is often you feel in that moment you actually don't have a choice, but you have made the choice. And one thing that comes out of your story is, first of all, I think you touch on a lot of the fears that we all have that are very real and very prominent in all of our lives. Fear of being alone, and it is key. And also, I think, something I want to pick up on is you've talked about taking your own life. I, at a point in time in my life, probably a couple, have thought about it. And I would hedge a guess that, I don't know, 90% of the population have actually thought about it at a point in time, because honestly, shit gets really hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And you said you made a choice. Talk me through the experience of, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, to moving through. And actually what came out the other side is you were alone, but from like you took the situation and almost led it.
Yeah. So when it comes to valuing your own life and the people in it and what you're doing, I found myself in a space where it no longer mattered. And so it starts off by you wake up in the morning and you go, oh, I don't feel like riding, or I don't feel like going to work. I don't feel like dealing with the kids. And then a month or so later, you go, oh, can I not just stay in bed? I'd rather just stay here. And then you notice yourself not opening the curtains anymore in your apartment. And you kind of like are getting absorbed into the darkness that's in your mind. Like you're in this space and you're almost feeling it. And it's a long progression from when you go, oh, does it even matter anymore, to do I even matter anymore? And so I remember I was even asking questions like, if I disappeared, would anyone notice? I'm here in my apartment right now, but I wanted to be in my apartment by myself. But if I just did this one thing, how long would it take someone to actually notice? And so I was in bed for days, and I would the only thing that would get me out was my riding. And so I'm so grateful, and that the value of a coach goes so far beyond just prescribing training, but it could be the difference. That structure was the only purpose I had left at that time. And my relationship at that point was very rocky. And we had gotten to a point where we had separated, but we knew we still wanted to be with each other. But I was the one with the problems, right? So I had to go fix myself first, which is an incredibly unfair position to put somebody in. But it's funny how it always ends up like that. One person's got the problem and the other person's fine. When I do believe actually, everybody has something they could potentially work on. But in that space, in that time, I was very much alone. And so I had been prescribed medication. And this was just before I went to the mental health facility. So I was prescribed medication to ensure that it was more for anxiety and depression. So there was the problem. My mind would just wander because you're so alone. You like can't quiet your mind. There is nothing there to actually calm the thoughts because there's no distraction or interaction or no amount of TV or music or whatever. Indoor trainer riding could fix this problem. It's like I just kept spiraling. And one thought led to another thought, which would spiderweb into deeper thoughts. And you then go and explore a place that we all have, but not necessarily, it's not necessarily the truth of who we are. It's more the fear of who we think we might be.
Right.
And so that's where I was stuck. And so with this medication, the prescribed was 1 to 2 a day. And I found myself, I took one and I was like, okay, just, it's going to work. It'll make me feel better. This one pill has got to make me feel better. And 30 minutes later, nothing. So I took another one. And then I was like, why isn't this making me feel better? And so I started to get angry. And then I was like, see, not even medication can help. Like, this is it. Like,
right.
So I took a third. And then I got so angry. I was like, watch me. I was like, oh, well, funny I say that since there was no one watching me. But then I ended up taking 10. And so afterwards, then I started feeling really, really sleepy. And I was like trying to open my phone. I wanted to see, because I realized then, or now you've pretty much shoved so much medication in your body, like your mind then is now doing different things completely. And so I wanted to see, was it possible to overdose on something like this? And I was trying to Google and I was like, do I make myself throw up? But I wasn't scared. And that's, I think, is the difference, is that we all have that thought of what if I just took one sleeping pill, I need to sleep, I want to sleep, maybe I should just sleep for longer. But then there's that moment when you realize, oh my gosh, like I value my life way, way too much, even if I am alone, like I don't want to die.
Right.
And so for me, I realized in that moment where I was like, actually, it doesn't matter. And then it was interesting. So then I said, okay, well, let me just call my boyfriend and let him know that I've done a thing. And so I tried to call him, but he was on a ride with his friends. And I called him a couple times, assuming that, well, and that's the thing, like when you're in the moment, and we've all done this, you call your boyfriend or ex-boyfriend because you desperately want to tell them something. You end up not just calling them 10 times, but you'll call them 40 times, as long as they answer, right? All you need to know is that they're going to be on the other end of the phone. And so I eventually got through to him. He was very angry because I was interrupting his ride. And I said, I've taken too many pills and I don't know what to do. And I was a little bit frantic, but I wasn't
Right.
scared. I was just like, I don't know what to do here. And so he was like, and I think I also had a pre-expectation of what he would say. I kind of expected him to go, oh my gosh, Sarah, okay, I'm turning around. I'm 40 minutes or an hour or 2 hours away from you, but I'm coming. That I'm sure.
Right.
I even get tears like talking about it. Because I wished so bad that he was gonna be there.
Right.
And he didn't. He said, I can't help you. He's like, this is on you. I can't help you. And he put the phone down. And I tried to call him back. Tried so many times. But I was then, funnily enough, more afraid of losing him than losing my own life. And that's a big moment. I think a lot of us get in this space where we do become slightly codependent, where we lean so much on our partner or our friends or our bicycle.
Right.
And if it's not there when we need it,
right,
like we fall apart. And so he ended up calling a good friend of mine, and she ended up calling my dad. And so my dad he jumped immediately into the car and he drove to my apartment and he knocked on that door. Even though he had the key, he knocked on that door for it must have been 5 minutes straight, just banging, banging, banging. And I remember then, I stumbled out of the bed and I just went and I opened the door. And when I saw him, I wasn't happy to see him.
Right.
I was like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Because I think I was so afraid of the disappointment that I would see in my own father's face. But he was brilliant, hey, sure. He was so good. And I respect him a lot because no parent really should ever go through that. But he's like one of those pillars that you can't break him. My dad is super, super strong. Yeah.
I think often we think our parents are, we want to shield our parents from things. But actually we don't have to. And the fact that your dad was the one at the door, I think is incredible. And at one point in your video, you say, did the bike save my life? No, I think it was all the people.
Yeah.
And so what it sounds like to me is in that time, there was a separation and a few kind of, I guess the first question was, well, actually, do I matter? Do I want to live? And although the fear was of losing your boyfriend, as you say, there were people who stepped in.
Yeah.
And tell me a little more about that conversation with your dad. There was what was the question he asked you?
So I'll carry on with the story, but it leads into that. So he said, grab your stuff and you're coming with me. And in this incredibly optimistic, positive, happy attitude, which my dad's quite a serious guy, so I don't really hear him have much of a, that style of personality. And so I just got my stuff and I just followed him like a studious daughter. And I got on the car and he drove us straight to Emmerensha Dam. And he was like, sit here on the grass and I'm going to go swim, because my dad he trains for everything. So I guess he was training for a triathlon at that point. Everyone can know my dad. He's done 11 comrades. He's done a full Ironman. He's done an epic. So I feel like a massive shoe.
Can I just pause? for 1 second there. If you don't know what a comrades marathon is, it's far for me on my bicycle, okay? It's 90 Ks of running. And Ironman Triathlon is a marathon with a 90K cycle, no, 180K cycle and a 4 kilometer swim.
Yeah,
I mean,
and you start with the swim, the cycle's in the middle, and you finish with the run, which I told my dad he's a bit loony, like it's a bit crazy for him to be able to do this, but he loves the journey of training and the process of getting better, which I have been inspired by him for that reason.
Amazing. Sorry.
Okay, so I'm on this grass. No, it's fine. My dad is incredible. He's one of those, but also he's not in the front of the field, so he's one of the back markers. And he loves it. He loves it. He just enjoys the whole like scenery and the spectators and the water points. Like, but he's fit. He's super fit, obviously. So he told me to sit on the grass, and he's like, "I'm gonna go swim twice around this dam." And he's like, "You must watch me swim." And then he said, "I want you to sit here, and you only need to think about one thing." And he's like, "And then you need to give me an answer when I come out the pool, or sorry, the dam." And he's like, "I just want you to think about, what do you want? What is it that you want?" And that was it. He just like took his clothes off and jumped in the dam. And I thought, well, I mean, it's a very open-ended question.
Do you mean like Smarties for lunch?
I know. I was like, I'm pretty hungry. Like maybe some shade right now would be great. That was the first thing I thought about, because I was just burning in the sun there on the grass. And when he got out the dam and walked back, he's like, "So what's your answer?" And I mean, I felt ridiculous answering him, but I said to him, like, "Dad, like all I want to do is ride. I just want to ride." And he's like, "Well, then, ride your bike. Like, that's what you want. That's truly what you want." And he could have been referring to anything. I mean, who knows what his expectation of my answer was. Hopefully, I mean, it wasn't something like, "I want to be a lawyer." It was where my heart was at. That's what I took it. And I think he realized in that moment that the bike to me was much more than just pedaling. It was my freedom. It was my self-expression. It was the one place where I felt like I truly belonged. And that's a big thing, like especially being a professional female in South Africa. You kind of stand out a little bit. You're always training with the guys. You're always too fast for the girls, and the girls are not afraid to tell you that you're too fast, which makes you feel very much like an outsider, like you're not welcome, And I train alone a lot, because sometimes the guys are too fast. Sometimes you're just trying to just get away,
Right.
And so when my dad asked me that, and I think he got it, what I was trying to say to him was like, I just want to ride.
Right.
Wow. And that was the start of a decision that I promised myself, and a space that I stepped into that ultimately led to where I am now, and to the performance and the level that I am today versus where I was a year and a half ago.
Wow.
And so it's a very powerful question. And if anyone can sit and just reflect on something, is what is it that you truly want?
Right.
And there is no answer. There's no right answer. It's and when you ask yourself that, I feel like you're asking your heart, like, where is it that you feel like you are in your best space?
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I literally feel like I could talk to you about this for the rest of the day. There's so much I want to hear. That's kind of you've outlined a story of where you were. And if I look at you now, you're going to World Marathon Champs. But there was kind of a bridge, and for me, something that really struck me was, how was your team support? I mean, the fact that you wrote the email to Live Cycling, like, that's Live Cycling. It's not like
You know, you're
The top
writing to
level
your mates.
people.
These are the people who are paying your salary, who have really high expectations of you. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Definitely. So Live Cycling, those of you who know me and have followed me since my years in America. So I actually studied my bachelor's degrees in North Carolina. I started off at a college called Lees McRae College, and then I transferred a little bit south to a college called Brevard College. Both were incredible, but Brevard provided a Bachelor of Science degree. And through that university, they were actually semi-sponsored through Live and Giants. And I would always go to the Live demos whenever there was an opportunity, and I would go ride the bikes, especially as they were evolving from 26 to 27.5 and then to 29. And then I've really been connected to them ever since then. And it wasn't only the bike that I loved so much about them, but it was their absolute inclusion of women. Like there was never, ever a woman left behind. There was never a moment where you felt unworthy, you know, and I love that. Every single ambassador I ever met, they would embrace you for every element of who you were. And so when that email popped up asking, I decided this was essentially the true test of whether Live globally had the same standpoint. You know, were they really a team that were designed by women for women? And these bikes were really all about the comfort and the performance and all of that. Do the people match the brand?
Right.
And I was so pleasantly surprised. Not only have I built a fantastic relationship now with the marketing side of Live Global, because it's obviously quite a thing working with them and doing voiceovers and videos and everything like that. But you know, we now are a very close network. So my manager, she's there, she keeps me in check. She helps me guide me with the races and the budgets and the partnerships. Oh my word, because being in South Africa now, it's very difficult for international riders to get here.
Right.
Because the hard part is getting home. So she's been on top of that, all managing all of the athletes. And I have, you know, the marketing side of the team, I couldn't believe how they're just there. Whether if they pop an Instagram message or they email me every now and then, just letting me know that they're thinking about me. And then truly my teammates. So I am yet to actually meet all of my teammates in person.
Wow.
There's only one that I actually have met because we both studied in varsity together. She was doing her master's while I was doing my bachelor's. So that's how we met. But virtually, you know, all of them have reached out. They are in major support of you. They acknowledge the tough races you're entering or the things that you share. And what I love is that they love every element of me and I do them. So whether they are downhill pros or our enduro gravel riders, our team itself, both the factory and the collective team, are so tight that I cannot wait for team camp because we never got one this year.
Oh,
but
wow.
It's going to be like a family gathering. That's what it feels like. Yeah.
That's amazing. I think that's so key. And one thing, I mean, in doing a bit of research for the blog, I read up about the other stories about the other athletes. And it seems to me that, and maybe I'm not as exposed as I should be, but it seems to me to be one of the first teams really investing behind women in the sport, but from a holistic perspective, not just from, you know, kind of what it should be done perspective.
Yeah,
and the fact that they shared your story and made the video really got my attention.
I'm glad, and that's what we wanted. And you are right, they're one of the first teams truly backing an athlete for everything that they are. And they're quite selective about who they bring on, because of course ultimately they want performance athletes, so they want athletes who are going to shine on the international circuit.
Right.
And at the same time, they acknowledge that they are investing in humans. They're investing in women who are of all ages and are in all different phases of their life. And the one thing that I love is that they know that I'm 28 years old, and they know exactly what happens when you are around 28 years old. The 25 to 35 age group, there's like a phase that you go through. And then they invest in professionals who are in their 40s and even 50s. And those women then, it becomes a network where they can provide advice or wisdom or genuine empathy and say, we know where you're at, and we know why you're so anxious. It makes so much sense. And they say, they encourage you to be patient, and they calm you, I think, which is a really nice thing as the community of girls that we have, and all ambassadors, not just our pro team. So every single woman who is a Live ambassador holds the same principles. Is you are not alone in your journey, and we are all here and will help to the best of our capabilities wherever you need it. And one of my favorite experiences actually is when I flew over to New Zealand for 2 months to go explore. And I linked up with the Live ambassador there, she was absolutely incredible. And we had no idea who each other was, but I just messaged her on Instagram and I said, I'm a South African ambassador. You're a New Zealand ambassador. Please show me around your town.
That's so
and
cool.
To this day, I swear I'm gonna find a race in New Zealand, and she's gonna be my partner.
Wow.
Just because of the authenticity she provided me and her story. It was incredible.
That's amazing. Yeah. I feel like cycling and being authentic really brings people closer together. Yeah, there's
the one thing about cycling that I truly admire is that no matter what job you have, or how big your family is, or how fancy your car is, if you are on a bicycle next to somebody, you guys are on the same level. You are simply just pedaling. And it's such an experience. I really love that. It just puts everybody on the same page.
I must say, I moved to Spain a year ago. I couldn't speak a word of Spanish, and I was kind of exploring, and I met this dude one day while out cycling, and then I joined the group, and that's kind of how I came to speak Spanish, but also, I guess, how I started this podcast, which is another story. But for me, the bike is such a symbol of transformation in so many ways. And I mean, I feel like you should possibly consider a book at some stage, or there's definitely more to this. And I know
we've got a lot of chapters.
There are a lot of chapters, but for me, life is a journey. But it definitely, I know you're going to World Marathon Champs in October in Italy, but the story you've just told me, and this confident power woman who's going to World Marathon Champs, is that the harnessing of the story that has enabled that?
Oh, that's a good question.
No pressure.
Yeah. So I love the way you've put those two, because as a professional, we have an image to uphold and an expectation to uphold, and there are times where I felt disconnected from my professional persona and lacked the attention that my personal persona required. And I think right now, the space that I'm in right now, I'm very much collaborating the two. And I don't know, it sounds like I have two different personalities, but we can look at it a little bit more like masks. You have your role to play as a professional. You have your role to play as an influential woman, as well as a daughter and a girlfriend, and so on. And at the moment, I really am striving to maintain balance. And if that means sleeping in on a Sunday to make yourself some pancakes, because that's something that is going to be the best for you, and then going for a solo ride in the afternoon, meeting your other half for lunch or something like that, where it's so unstructured, but actually it's exactly what you need.
Right.
That's what's going to happen. And I feel like allowing myself to go, what is it that I need right now, has helped me be so much more of a balanced athlete. And what that's done is it's opened up this incredible door for me, because before this time, the idea of suffering was very, I don't know, not inviting. Like I didn't really want to suffer. I felt like I was already miserable and sad and tormented by everything, that I was doing so much suffering off the bike that I was tired, like really tired. And now I'm in a place where I go, okay, I'm feeling a bit like I've been overreaching. I want to provide myself with a bit of time. I have an incredible yoga instructor who I feel like is / therapist every now and then when I come in. But she allows me to move in ways that provide me with confidence in myself. Whether it's just doing a normal practice or focusing a little bit more on the breathing. Because after I did catch both waves of COVID, so I have I've been focusing on my breathing a lot, because that's another podcast for us to chat about.
Absolutely. Round 2.
But then what it's done, right, is that you learn how much is within your control. And the door that it's opened is to go, I want to explore that place of uncomfortable suffering, challenges, what is seemingly impossible, and how can I conquer that? And so I have now invited myself to purposefully put myself in these spaces, which has allowed me to perform at races such as Atticus or Michali's Monster, these rocky, tough, hard events that people normally they just don't enter that one because it's just so hard.
Right.
I've now gone and I say to myself, like, well, let's actually explore this space. Because if you start to realize what exactly is uncomfortable, what is it that you actually fear, where is your limit, you notice that once you reach that limit, it actually moves a little bit further away and you can then do more. And I strive to do that in all places in my life. So not just with the bike, but with my master's and my sports psychology degree, trying to apply a lot of the work that I do with my own athletes. How does that benefit somebody? How does it make it worse, right? You have to explore and experiment and learn what is your own practice to life in general, not just to the one thing that you're good at. And so that's where balance comes in, which is really handy.
Right. And that to me sounds like it's been a process of integration, these different parts of self. And sometimes I think as you bring the different parts of yourself closer together, you get more room to explore.
Yeah.
And do you have, well, I don't just want to ask about World Marathon Champs, but do you have kind of expectations of what you want to achieve, or at the moment are you like, okay, well, let's just go and see?
So the beauty of World Marathon Champs is it's never in the same country each year. So every year you're hitting a different course. And that's something I love. It's kind of like the Cape Epic. Every year the course changes. So it suits different people on different years. And I'm a big fan of terrible weather. So if it rains, I'm happy. If there's mud, I'm stoked.
Sarah, I don't know that we can be friends.
But the reason is because most people are terrified of that experience. They're like, oh my word, it makes it so much harder. And I'm going, now it's the perfect opportunity to play. Wow. It's the perfect opportunity to take the pressure off of you and just to do what you do best, which is to ride. And so the same thing, kind of the same attitude goes towards Worlds. So I've only done one Worlds before. It was the 2019 one in Switzerland. And just to give some people perspective, it was a 75-kilometer race with 3,000 meters of climbing in it. And to make it worse, there were only 3 climbs. So we climbed 1,000 meters at a time. Which is, I mean, it's
wow.
You can't comprehend how.
That's insane.
Like, firstly, like, why are mountains that long? Why do we have to go to the bottom of them? That's insane. So now I have a very similar expectation for going into Italy. Is I'm expecting mega mountains because this is world champs, like that's what they have. But the kind of mountains we're going to ride are probably going to be slightly different. There might be more of them. So I'm not somebody who's very good at consistent and hard for long periods of time. That's my my ex teammate Teresa, that she's the engine. I'm the sprinter. So if it's very punchy, then I actually might have a chance to do better than I did before. But saying that, we haven't been racing in a while, so everyone's extremely excited to get out on the start line and just destroy each other, because everyone wants to be the best in the world, right?
Sure.
And so my expectation for myself is, I've gotten 26th at the last World Marathon Champs. So let's go and see if I can do better. Because it's all about progression. And I want to try. Like, let's see where I'm seated on the start line. Could be a lot different than it was last time. And do we enter single track right away, or is it a long flat road until a long climb? What will suit me, what doesn't? And I want to, this experience is what makes me a better rider, is going out there and going, like, I want to acknowledge when I feel good on this course. And when I don't feel good, I want to see how quickly I can pull myself out of that space and go, we're in this, Sarah. Like, no matter where you are, you're in this. And that's my goal, is to, let's see if we can do better, and let's see if we can come out with a little bit more knowledge of who I am as an athlete.
Well, I think the fact that you've come from the experience that you've had, and for the listeners, I am going to share the link to the blog post, We Are Not Alone, on Live Cycling. But you've come from this experience and you've showed yourself that. And that to me is incredible. I mean, reading your story, it was just like, what? This is crazy to have been in this really dark space and then pulled yourself out and, get back on the proverbial bicycle with more muscles in the legs. And I mean, the fact
and more fights in the heart.
Right.
Because that's what I lost, is I lost that fight. And I can tell you, like, for anybody that, and this is just a personal experience and a personal advice, but if you find yourself losing that fire and that flame inside of you, and you feeling burnt out and overtrained or overreached in any way, start simple by going and doing something that you enjoy and actually acknowledging the moments where you feel good. And it's a really, really key element to this, because it could be anywhere. It could be the way you took that footstep down on the trail, or it could be the line choice you took around the corner on a bike. I mean, it's anywhere. But as soon as you start acknowledging those spaces where you feel good, you just start to notice them more and more, because that's where you're paying attention.
Absolutely.
And those are like the little steps that I took to first, before I set a goal. Those were my little goals. And then the goal was, let's show up at a start line. And then the next goal was, all right, I'm feeling good on my climbing. Like, let's see if we can hold on the climbs. And it just kind of goes there, and it grows every time it grows. But you need to keep those steps small, because we all want to jump.
What do you mean? We want to fly. But I love the point that you've emphasized is about progression. It's like progression, and progression over time means consistency, and consistency means inevitably you go further along the path, and when you fall down, you get back up again.
Exactly.
So thank you.
And that is it. Like, I'm happy to sit here now and go, I really did get back up again.
You did. And I think that story, I know I've said this a few times today, but the fact that you're a professional athlete, I was like, wow, I can relate to this person. It's amazing. She's not, for the first time when I watched your video, first of all, I could relate to your challenges, but secondly, I could relate to actually, you don't have to be X or Y to be a professional athlete, or
And,
Yeah.
I guess you can relate that to whatever stage you are in your life. You don't have to be X or Y to have a specific job or to, to start a business and I feel like for women, especially, that's a really essential piece of advice. So
100%.
Yeah,
It really is so true.
I really, really, really want to thank you for your courage and your bravery. And I wanna end off by asking 3 quick questions.
Sure.
So for me, I mean, honestly, I ride to eat coffee and cake. That is the that is the answer right there. I know you've mentioned freedom. Tell me quickly about playtime on the bike for you.
Oh, it's I like have a huge smile on my face I love that question. So playtime it's about trying new things, and it's about going around corners fast and skidding and making mistakes and laughing at yourself. It's about releasing the structure and allowing yourself to express yourself through the bicycle, which is, I mean, it's style and flow and sass. Like, that's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you reach a point of flow on a bicycle, it's like something magical. Yeah, I love that. One piece of advice for women thinking about starting cycling but haven't yet.
So if you're thinking about starting, the answer is yes, you should. And then the second part to that is find somebody, whether it's a mentor or a girlfriend, somebody who has done it recently, who's just started, to connect with them to see how it is that they made their steps to get to where they were. If you're jumping on a road bike, generally they are going to be a lot more helpful with how to ride in a group, how to feel a bit more comfortable, when to eat, how to drink, all of those things. When it comes to a mountain bike, I really suggest finding your nearest skills instructor. And I say this with a loving heart, because you can't just buy your bike and expect to know how to rail it down a rock garden. You want to learn all about that bike, from how to brake effectively, how to stand in a balanced place, how to control that bike around the corners, shifting, like tire pressure, shock pressure. There's so much involved in there. And so the beautiful thing about a skills lesson is that it's giving you an hour or two to sit with somebody who's an expert in the field, and you can just pick their brain, and they're going to help you feel comfortable with riding, and you can ask them whatever question you want, because there's no rush to stay with the group, or you don't have to feel bad for falling off the back of the bunch because you're nervous about going downhill. It's a beautiful space to feel comfortable.
That's super cool. I can attest to that, because my best friend Nats dragged me. I think Mark Faree is your...
Yeah, he actually gave me my PMVI level 1 certification.
Amazing.
Yeah, he is my teacher.
That's amazing. I was I've never been so terrified in my life. And I just remember Mark saying to me, "You are more capable than you think, Lisa." And I was like, okay, I'm more capable than I think.
Repeat what he says.
Right. And that's kind of that leads into the last question I have for you. What is your power phrase, or your power song, or that thing you use to remind yourself?
So this, we can call it a mantra if you want to, but this is something I've actually had since the very first ride that I ever did. And there is absolutely nothing that has overtaken this tiny little sentence. And whatever situation I'm in, positive, negative, doesn't matter, this sentence resonates with me always. And it's, I am strong. And that's all I am. Like, no matter what, I'm strong. If I need to hold on to someone's wheel and pedal my bum off just to hold on, I'm strong. If I'm exhausted at the end of a 6.5-hour race, my hands are so sore I can barely hold the handlebar, I'm still strong. It just fits with everything. I love it.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. I'm strong.
And it's so simple as well.
Right.
You can repeat it yourself with every pedal stroke.
It's amazing how those things stick. My best friend Nat always said to me, you can cry, but you have to keep pedaling. That one also often sticks with me.
That's good.
Yeah. Sarah, I really, really want to thank you. I know this is the first time you've really come out and spoken about your story, and I feel like there's so much more, and I really do think there's a second episode to this, or a book or something further. But I really, really want to thank you, because I want to thank you for your bravery and your courage, and just taking your time with me today and to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a very special moment for me, and thank you for letting me share it verbally and not just through social media, right? I really do appreciate that space.
There's something about a person's voice when they share their story. That really brings it to life, and I really think that we're going to be rooting for you in Italy.
Thank you.
And I look forward to chatting to you again.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Lisa. This was great.
Thanks, Sarah. My name is Lisa, and thank you for joining me. You know what to do. Subscribe, please share with a friend. Most importantly, get on your bicycle, drag your mate, drink some coffee, and I will see you next week for another episode of Velo Dulce and the Good Life.